Yo, what is up, y'all? My name is Rob Donaldson, and welcome back to another edition of Rob's Best Bets. And although we don't have all of the bets finalized for Friday, when you're looking at this record, we do have 3 of the 4 finalized, and that's what's included on here. Iowa minus 2.5 for 3 units is the last bet that is yet to kind of go final, as that bet is actually just starting as I'm kind of recording this here. But when we're looking at the Saturday slate, it is absolutely loaded. I actually think it's the best college basketball slate of the entire season so far. We have a lot of bets on this slate. We have a lot of units being thrown on this slate, and I am so excited to get into these picks. But before we do, I do want to give a massive shout out to today's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. And whether you're a fan of college basketball, NFL, college football, NBA, Major League Baseball, when that starts up as well, Underdog Fantasy has a number of different things that you can interact with across every single sport that you can think of. One of my favorites are going to be the pick'em entries, and you can take part in those pick'em entries if you're following me over on Twitter/X at RobDFB. And if you haven't already signed up and collected a deposit match bonus, make sure you're using code RobDFB, and that'll get you a pretty sweet one. But with all that being said, with all that build up, let's go ahead and jump into these Saturday picks here. All right, first up, we are heading out to Boston, Massachusetts, where we have probably one of the more obscure bets that we're going to place today. And there's quite a few, but this one definitely stands out between Bucknell and Boston University. And listen, the Patriot League always has these really tight lines. I've been betting on this league for some time, and Bucknell this season is one of those teams that I do feel like has a shot to kind of unseat Colgate in this conference. And there's a reason why it's such a short line in this game, and we could take the +1. I say we go ahead and just take the money line, which I think we're getting a good price here on. So let's go ahead and take the money line with Bucknell for 2 units for our first bet here on Saturday. For pick number 2, we are heading out to the nation's capital, where we have St. Louis taking on George Washington. And St. Louis started this season very, very slow. Obviously, a lot of kind of transfer over talent from Indiana State. Josh Schertz, the head coach, is from Indiana State. And Indiana State over the last 2 years has made us a lot of money and just has been successful in college basketball just in general. And now they're going ahead and taking on George Washington in George Washington's building, but I feel like St. Louis is hitting their stride at the perfect time. The A-10 is wide open, and man, oh man, would this be such a moment for them to really just kind of emerge into the top 3 of this league. So let's go ahead and take St. Louis on the money line for 2 units for our second bet here on Saturday. For pick number 3, we are heading out to the Horizon League, where we have Oakland taking on Robert Morris. And obviously, a lot of you guys know this Oakland team from last year's NCAA tournament because they knocked off Kentucky and really just kind of stole a lot of hearts with Lucas Golke, the guy who looked like an insurance salesman, nailing a bunch of threes and putting the coffin in Cal at Kentucky. But this is a very brand new look roster because pretty much their entire roster turned over. There's not a lot of retention, and when you look at Greg Kampe, man, what a coaching legend. He is obviously still here, and Oakland, despite a very slow start, has really turned it around in conference play. And Robert Morris is one of those teams that I feel like has been playing a little bit above their head as of late, and that's why I think this is a shorter line at 2.5 points. So let's go ahead and take Oakland, getting the 2.5 points on the road for 3 units for our third play here on Saturday. For pick number 4, we are heading out to the SWAC. And, you know, I mentioned an obscure play when we were talking about Bucknell and Boston University, and I held off on saying the most obscure play because this game right here that we're going to be betting on exists. And that game is between Florida A&M and Alcorn State. Yes, there's 9 wins between the two of these teams, and when you're looking at Alcorn State, despite the fact that they have a really ugly record a lot of SWAC teams have a really ugly record at the beginning of conference play because they really play up in non-con to fund their programs. And Alcorn State is one of those teams that in the SWAC over the last few years, and actually beyond that, have been one of the more prominent teams in this league, and I think that's going to continue once again this season. So let's go ahead and lay those 5 points with Alcorn State for 2 units for our 4th bet here on Saturday. 4, pick number 5, we're heading out to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where we have an in-state rivalry matchup between Duke and Wake Forest. And Wake Forest under Steve Forbes has really started to blossom by way of the transfer portal, by way of just this offensive kind of barrage that they can throw at you. And I really loved Steve Forbes all the way dating back to East Tennessee State. Do I know if he's going to be successful in terms of, NCAA tournament runs? I think that's yet to be seen with his style of play. But in regular season, I do think that this is one of those programs that can really pick off any team in the country when everything is going right. And kind of like last week when we had UCF taking on Houston at home, I do kind of like the idea of taking a little bit of a speculative measure here where we dabble pretty heavily on the money line. So let's go ahead and take Wake Forest, getting the 10.5 points for 2 units, and for an additional unit, let's go ahead and take a stab at Wake Forest on the money line here as well. 4, pick number 6, we're heading out to Salt Lake City, where we have Baylor taking on Utah, and man oh man, did Utah get absolutely punked by Houston last time out. I mean, they couldn't even get to 40 points. It didn't even look like they had a chance to even get the ball near the rim, and now they have a short line at home taking on Baylor, and I feel like that is so indicative because, as I've said a million times when we've bet on Utah, and honestly have kind of made money on them this season, they are a very high variance, up and down, home court oriented team, and although Baylor is a good team, I don't think that they're great, and I do feel like this is one of the games in conference play that Utah can pick off somebody. So let's go ahead and take those 2.5 points with the Utes for 4 units for our 6th bet here on Saturday. 4, pick number 7, we're heading out to the A10, where we have Davidson taking on Richmond, and the Richmond Spiders are very high variance, much like Utah, but just in a different way because they really get up in your grill and play tight defense. They try to force turnovers. They try to get out and run. That's how they've always played under Coach Mooney, and when you're looking at this matchup against Davidson, I do feel like this is one of those games, again, kind of like Utah taking on Baylor, that Richmond can really peel one off in conference play. And with this matchup here, I love that we're getting 2.5 points, so I say we take them for 4 units for our 7th play here on Saturday. 4, pick number 8, we are heading out to Manhattan, Kansas, the Little Apple, where we have Kansas State taking on West Virginia. And West Virginia, you really got to tip your cap to them because this season, it kind of felt like a rebuilding year under Coach DeVries in year 1. But man, oh man, did they make a splash when they went into the fog and won outright for the first time, and it feels like forever, or for the first time, period. And when you're looking at this matchup against West Virginia here for Kansas State, I do feel like Kansas State matches up well. But on paper, Kansas State is not a bad team, but they've been playing pretty darn awful. And when you look at this matchup and you kind of think about the totality of what a season brings, I feel like Jerome Tang is going to get a win sooner rather than later. This line feels suspiciously low in my opinion, and for all of those reasons kind of stacking up there, I do like Kansas State, and I do like Kansas State on the money line for 3 units for our 8th bet here on Saturday. 4, pick number 9, we're staying out in the state of Kansas, and we're even staying in the Big 12, where we have a matchup between Houston and Kansas, and man, Kansas getting points in the fog in primetime on a Saturday. Listen, I get that Houston is a good team. they just punked the hell out of Utah last time out. But when you look at Kansas, when you look at Bill Self, this is a team that gets off the mat better than anybody else. And despite the fact that they haven't been playing good ball, I am never fading this team in this building. I would lay this all the way up to -5 in favor of Kansas, to be honest with you. And for that reason, I say we lay our biggest bet of the season in this game on the Kansas Jayhawks. So let's go ahead and take those 2.5 points here with Kansas for 5 units for our 9th play here on Saturday. All right, next up, we've got yet another kind of obscure matchup here in the Patriot League once again between Lafayette and Lehigh. And Lehigh and Brett Reed have been together for quite some time, and this is still a program that year after year isn't really competing for championships anymore. That was kind of almost a one-off with CJ McCollum back when they upset Duke, but they are still a relevant program that wins a lot in the league, and although they've been having a little bit of a down year, I do feel like this is a great spot to buy low on them. So let's go ahead and take Lehigh, getting the 1.5 points for 2 units for our second to last bet here on Saturday. All right, for our final bet of Saturday's amazing slate, we're heading out to the Big East, where we have Yukon taking on Xavier. And Yukon, this is a team that we've been wanting to fade all season long. It started in Maui for us, and we've been making a lot of money betting against this team. And when you look at the other side of the aisle in this game, you've got Sean Miller in a Xavier bunch that I think truly feels like they still have a shot at an NCAA tournament berth, and they're not going to get there without a win like this. So let's go ahead and take Xavier on the money line for 4 units for our final bet here on Saturday. All that being said, I really want to thank you guys for checking out today's video, and if you want to show some love, make sure you drop a like on this video, make sure you subscribe to this channel, and make sure you comment down below. I love interacting with you guys down there. And if you don't want to miss any of our bets, the NFL playoffs are this weekend. I'm probably not going to have a video for college basketball on Sunday. If you want to make sure that you're getting up to date with everything that we place, make sure you're following me over on Twitter/X at RobDFB as well. We also post our Underdog Fantasy plays on there too. So make sure you go over there. But with all that being said, y'all, I will see you in a future video. Take it easy.